Hey everyone, Temporal here, and since we have some new experimental patch notes up, I thought I would take a look at them, do a bit of a reaction here. I probably won't get super in depth with my reaction, but I will cover it a bit, simply because obviously I have had zero scrim time with these, and predictions around these things are never right. They can't ever be right. It doesn't matter how amazingly aware of how the game works someone is, because the reality is what metas end up looking like have some to do with what's strong, what gets nerfed, what's get buffed, etc. But it has some to do with what do players gravitate towards and actually train. So even if I went, this is exactly what should be meta, it doesn't necessarily mean it would be, even if I was right, because players train in different ways. Meta bubbles exist, like we saw in the previous patch, where we had Brawl happening in some places, Double Bubble in others, which was right. Yeah. Okay, so let's take a look here. First thing that we're seeing is we've got BAP. His healing projectile explosion is reduced from 60 to 50 health, so that's going to be a bit of a nerf if he's not hitting directs, and frequently he isn't. But healing projectile direct impact now restores an additional 20 health. Okay, so if you're hitting people with directs, it's trying to reward better aim here. Yeah, I can certainly respect trying to reward better aim. That's going to, at the highest levels, potentially make him a bit better. At lower levels, make him a bit worse. It's going to make him do less AoE healing, which is also potentially a nerf to Brawl. It's going to be less good of a job of let me heal my tank line both at once, etc. But when you really are trying to hit that fat target, and some of those targets are easy to hit, Ryan's Divas, you're going to get a little bit more out of them. Overall, though, I think it's hard to not call this a net nerf for BAP, simply looking at that lamp threshold. That lamp change where it's now going to save people at 10% maximum health instead of 20% maximum health. So looking at that, that's going to be a bit worse for him. Again, we see, okay, we're looking at a little bit less there with his lamp, which means if people don't get seriously healed during the lamp, they're pretty much immediately going to get deleted. That's maybe not the best thing in the world for him. But people have been unhappy about Lamp. I'm not sure it makes sense to be unhappy about Lamp anymore, but they're trying to make an adjustment there. D.Va, this is a fun one. Calmech, damage increased from 50 to 250. So if you're standing next to her, that that is a fun one. If you're standing next to her when her mech lands, it will eliminate you. Now, the cool thing about that is it does make it a little higher risk reward to try to finish Divas off, for Tracers to go in there to try to finish Divas off, for heroes to be in there trying to get that damage to finish D.Va off while she's remeching if they didn't get her before she had the mech cooldown back, before she'd recharged her call mech rather from having been demeched. There's a little more risk of if you're in there and you're not quite in time, she's going to eliminate you. Now, the reality is Calmech doesn't cover that huge of a territory. Tracer can shoot from plenty far away. Sombra can shoot from plenty far away. Genji can shoot from plenty far away. Reaper can shoot from plenty far away since they kept buffing him. But it is an interesting little thing. I don't think the idea is to be a joke. I think the idea is to put more pressure on, hey, you're supposed to get the elimination on her before she charges it, not you're supposed to stagger her forever. I think that's probably what they're trying to do. I don't think it'll work. But we'll see. I think for it to work, they would have to make Calmech do its damage like immediately. Like it would have to be a press the button and it immediately does its damage, even if she doesn't immediately get the mech. It would sort of need to be that to prevent people from trying to wall her, stop her from being able to jump off the edge, stop her from being able to run back to her team, stop her from being able to go to the point, which is what you see from D.Va staggers. That's probably an anti-stagger trick that probably isn't actually going to work. Okay. I think that that is the intent there in Exact to reduce staggering. Uh, I don't think it's going to work. Okay, Echo. When duplicate ends, Echo will return to the health value she had prior to activating the ability or to 100 health, whichever is higher. Probably a good change. I think the or 100 health, whichever is higher, is a bit of a cop out, but that's probably a good change. Duplicate isn't really supposed to be 3 lives. It's supposed, well, in my mind, duplicate shouldn't be 3 lives. It should be flexibility. It should be, hey, I get someone else's ult fast. It should be a magic puzzle piece, not a 3 lives thing. It was sort of enabling her to dive too hard with those 3 lives when she had that up for a hero that was also very strong at poke. I think that's probably a good change. Batic Orb, cooldown reduced from 10 seconds seconds to 8. That is not going to make a difference. The hero fundamentally doesn't make sense in any of the appropriate ways to play Overwatch. Good try. Good try. You have to give her some different utility, and I don't think making the orb something that you can throw more often, so you can throw the orb to heal further or do more with the damage orb, is going to be enough to find that utility spot for her. Halt, cooldown reduced from 8 seconds to 6. That's tough. We see what they've done now. They've reduced Hult's strength by making its tethers not go as far, but they have decreased its cooldown now, maybe to make up for that. That's probably net overall a better change, though less fun, maybe more fun. I think the idea is it's more engaging because you get to do something with Orisa more often, and Hult is such a big thing around how poke teams do their comms, around how Orisa works. It's the most interesting part of her kit, so being able to use it more often is probably more engaging. On the other hand, it is a little weird to see, we think Orisa's too powerful, let's nerf Halt. Oh, Orisa's not strong enough, let's buff Halt. Like, okay, they're different pieces of Halt that they touched, but I don't really like when we do this thing where it's just like, can we just admit that maybe the last change wasn't the right one and revert it? That's the kind of way I view this kind of change, where we're impacting the same ability and like, oh, this way. This to me is just, there's too much hesitation sometimes on Blizzard's side to go, well, let's just revert a previous buff or nerf. But maybe this really is exactly what they want. Maybe they do want the ability to be less powerful, but usable more often, because I think that'll make the hero more engaging. Maybe. Reinhardt sees a armor nerf down from 250 armor to 200, and it's a total nerf. So health armor total reduced from 550 to 500. So he's actually lost 50 armor, and it wasn't converted to health. It was actually taken away. That's meaningful. That's going to hurt Brawl. Did they touch McCree? They didn't touch McCree. Interesting. Okay, that's potentially going to hurt Brawl meaningfully. It probably, again, is the wrong thing. I think they probably just instead needed to go, hey, maybe this extra 10 damage we gave his swing didn't make any sense. Maybe we should have reverted that instead of playing with the health again. But you know what? This is still a reversion to a previous thing. So Blizzard is going, hey, this is a reversion. We're back to 200 armor, 300 health, which is how Reinhardt's health pool was originally balanced. So it is a reversion, though probably not the one I would have picked. Roadhog. Scrap gun, primary and second fire. Damage per projectile increased from 6 to 6.6. Okay, that will certainly make him more effective. We will get more damage out of him. I don't know, obviously, without testing what that means in terms of changed heroes that he can consistently one-shot or one-shot plus melee. And then Sombra, always an interesting character to touch. Fade time when entering or exiting stealth reduced from, okay, so she's going to be able to disappear faster. That's still probably too long. That's still half a second. That's probably still too long to reasonably be actually trying to use it as an escape. Though in lower level play, that'll probably work now. Movement speed increased from 50 to 60%. So they're leaning into her stealth thing. Okay, so what does this mean in terms of this? So what does this mean in terms of meta impact? Because I know that's the question that you all are going to ask, and it's a silly question because I can't possibly have the right answer yet, but let's make a fool of myself trying. So if we look here, we see, I'm going to call this BAP nerfs, though it's definitely squishy. Going to call this a D.Va buff, but a D.Va buff that doesn't do anything. So this is, let's change this. This I'm going to mostly consider irrelevant. I'm going to call this a slight nerf. I could end up eating my words on that. This is a nerf, and this is a nerf for a hero that regularly gets run in some poke dive type stuff and some double bubble type stuff. So if we were to dethrone Brawl in the West, an Echo nerf is not a good start to that, though a BAP nerf potentially is. This just doesn't matter. I don't think this is going to cause her to be played, so I don't care about it. This is promising because now we've actually made poke better. We've meaningfully made poke better with this. We've meaningfully made Brawl better with this. And then as we go through here, this is again meaningfully making poke better. That's not usually necessarily the hero that you'd use, but this does meaningfully make a poke hero better. And then we have this, which is generally used as a dive hero. So here we're making dive better, and it does see some use in double bubble type stuff as well. We've seen a fair amount of that. So what does that mean? In terms of this, that's meaningful. That's meaningful. That's meaningful. And this could be meaningful. Yeah, I could definitely see us drifting away from Brawl. Between the nerf here, some buffs to some of these poke heroes, a buff to Sombra, little bit of a tweak here. I could definitely see things moving away from Brawl. Do I see things? Do I see like double bubble full? Do I see like no, now we're going full poke because of the Orisa plus Hog? Probably not. That's probably not the answer, though that is a pretty meaningful buff right there, and so is that. We could see some serious poke at this point. That would not be crazy. Yeah, I'm really interested to see what this does for poke because tanks are what set tanks are what set the world for a lot of comps. Tanks are what set up how you play. Now you can still pick a tank because the DPS are perfect, so you're going to use the DPS are way overtuned, so you're going to use the tanks that support them well. That's still definitely a thing. This is interesting how hard we've gone in here though, because I think people would probably agree that tanks are, outside of Reinhardt, the heroes that have been sort of nerfed to a point where they're tough right now. None of the tanks really feel particularly strong except for Reinhardt right now. Zarya loses energy so fast. Orisa's Holt doesn't do anything. Roadhog, isn't really effective. Sigma got a little bit of his power back when his shield got brought back a little bit in terms of its deploy time. And his shield did get brought back in terms of its deploy time a bit on the last thing. Yeah, I could see us leaning more towards a poke thing. The question is, a poke thing potentially now is the tools to beat Brawl. Do more pokey type comps, either a double shield or a hog one, have now the tools to be battling some of the double bubble or poke dive type stuff that we were looking at. And poke dive hasn't really seen meaning. Well, poke dive saw meaningful nerfs from when we saw the Ball Sigma comp. Like it's seen a lot of meaningful nerfs there. But does the actual poke look like it's taken let me rephrase that. Do the actual heroes besides those feel like they've taken stuff? Because Sigma got a little back. Ball is still in his worst state. Echo takes a little bit of a nerf here on top of some other nerfs that she's stacked. That kind of got, yeah, I mean, that comp kind of got nerfed out. So then we entered Double Bubble, which has mostly been, hey, we're doing this. Winston's still going to be in pretty good shape. He has his armor buff. That'll be interesting. That'll be really interesting to think through. I think we probably are going to see a move away from Brawl when these goes live. I just don't know if we're going to end up more in like a poke dive thing or a dive thing built around ultimates like Double Bubble, or if we're actually going to see a resurgence of a real poke comp here, as opposed to the hybridized type stuff. Because this tank stuff is interesting to me. I'm just trying to think: is there a hero right now? McCree hasn't been touched. McCree hasn't been touched. If you really wanted to take down Brawl, you'd have gone after McCree too. Huh. Okay, let's look at questions because I know I have them. Pile driver diva, yeah, that's pretty funny. They need to remove her immunity frames if you can do enough damage to one shot a squishy. That's fair. Does diva call buff mech change staggering? We think it tries to. Throw more orbs, instant 400 SR. Most interesting part of her kit. Meanwhile, I barely use it. Cloudy slamming his desk. I believe it. Yeah. Roadhog's damage was meh, so I like this change. If you know where to put the spread, it's not that mad, but yeah. Uh, yeah, I'm kind of with you, Blah. He had ways to combo most of the roster, so I'm a little surprised. Like this might be a lot. I think McCree is probably the hero. Well, might not be after this goes through, but I think after you consider the nerfs to Reinhardt here, I think McCree is probably the most overtuned hero. But if this actually goes through like this, one of these buffed heroes might be the most overtuned hero. And by one of these buffed heroes, it could be one of these tanks, or it could be Sombra, but I doubt it. I don't think this is going to be a big difference maker. I don't think this will be a big difference maker, even though it's definitely a buff, because this is cool. and 60% speed, so you get 10% more speed and you stealth faster, you're still going to get broken out of that stealth while stealthing against pro level teams. It's just what's going to happen. You're not going to be able to stealth as a defensive. But in lower level, this could be very annoying. I don't think this is a meaningful buff. And 50 to 60% speed is still cool for scouting, cool for getting there. Like it's not a nerf, it's definitely a buff, but I don't think it's huge. I think the most interesting buffs here are the tank buffs that we're seeing. And I don't know if that'll cause one of these to be the most overpowered hero in the game. But right now, the most overpowered hero in the game, probably McCree. If we have another double shield meta, I'll jump on my head. Don't do that. More orbs also means more healing and faster ult charge. It does Game Buster, but she simply doesn't work because the way that the game almost always evolves to be played in mirrors is more angles is better, more and greater angles is stronger, and Moira doesn't work all that great with angles because she's like, you're over here, maybe I can heal you, maybe I can heal you. I can't heal this person over here. So BAP just does her job better because BAP can throw healing nades. That's sort of the problem with Moira. She needs to bring some different utility, and maybe bringing her orb cooldown from 10 to 8 seconds will allow her to send orbs to heal these people consistently enough for it to be worth it, but I'm doubtful. I'm very doubtful. Back to double shield meta. Could be, I don't know. Because Sigma isn't in a bad spot anymore, so we could be back to that with this Orisa buff. The D.Va D-Mech is going to be somewhat OP. I doubt it. You don't have to get that close to D.Va to finish her off. You really don't. I like the Echo change. I do too. I think that's a good change. I think the 100 health is a cop-out, but I think it's a good change. Brawl wasn't totally dominant at the high level anyway, still a fair amount of double-bubble. Exactly. The West was liking Brawl, but Owl was still split, and Korea was running double-bubble more often, though Korea would certainly still run Brawl on some maps and some teams. Wouldn't it also make EMP come out slightly faster? When entering or exiting stealth, yeah, so it's going to be harder. You're right, that might take away some of the reaction transcendences that we've seen protect teams. That might take some of those away. What would you give Moira to fix her? Ooh. I'm not sure I would try to fix her. And what I mean by that is I don't think they want her to be fixed. I think if you were going to try to fix her, you would have to either give her a new ability or you would have to replace an ability. So you would have to either change Biotic Orb in a way that it did something significant, much more significant than just here's some healing or some damage that I can project at a range, maybe making it unmatrixable. Maybe that would do it. Maybe making it do more damage if there's more people being hurt by it at once. So like for each person there, it's doing more, or for each person it's healing more. Like I don't know. You would need something that's probably you'd either need to make her stupid strong at what she does, like stupid strong at what she does compared to BAP and Ana, or you would need to give her something very different utility wise, like trade fade out for a different ability. Right now, her only niche is she can't be dove, so she can go in with full dive teams. Like that's basically all she's got, and it's not enough. That's just not a strong enough playstyle. Offensive mech calls a thing. I hope not. It's going to be Mei, Reaper, and Owl anyways. It always ends the same. I don't know about that. Do you think Moira Fade was busted? I thought it had some potential. Meh. They were experimenting with strange stuff to do with orb before, for example, having orbs tether or do more damage when closer. Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe that's the answer. Maybe something like that is the answer, or maybe something like a group fade is the answer. You do have to give her some actual utility. Right now, her utility, it's not orb. Her utility is, hey, I can go ahead and not be dove. Like I am the support that needs no protection. I'm a flex support that needs no protection from my main support is basically her niche. And that's not really good enough because while it's good for her, it simply doesn't enable her team well enough the way that a Discord Orb does, a damage boost and potential res does, the way that a offensive nade does, the way that a lamp does, the way that, lamp plus damage does. Like, she simply doesn't do enough. Like, oh, she might heal. So what if she heals? Moira and Anna also, excuse me, Anna and Bap also heal a lot, but they contribute a lot more. And honestly, Anna is sometimes in danger of not being relevant because most of her contribution comes to, hey, Nade sleeps, and it's not as much as what a Bap can do while putting out also lots of healing, but he can put out a lot more damage and has that lamp. Um, I think Moira needs a very meaningful change, but I'm not going to invent it because they're never going to listen to me. We know how that goes with developers. Developers these days like their stance of, don't tell us how to fix our game. Instead, just tell us what you don't like, what isn't fun, and we're the professional developers. We'll figure out how to fix it in a way that is fun, which is pompous and wrong, but it is how developers are these days in most games. So me telling them how to fix their game, me inventing something that wildly different, just isn't a good use of my mental resources. Like, when stuff is like, oh yes, I just know it, I'll say it, and when it's like, oh yeah, this is, you should do it like this for balance reasons, etc. But if I need to like make something completely new out of whole cloth, even if I come up with the best thing in the world, it's not going to be done. So like, that's not worth inventing. Okay. Are there any other heroes you would say are fundamentally flawed? Probably. Let me take a look. Hmm. These are all different enough. Um, there was a little bit there that there was a problem, but that's mostly been fixed. These work. We haven't figured out what we're doing with Genji. Is he a blade bot? His ult really isn't powerful enough to be a blade bot. Is he a strong neutral game? Well, apparently the community hates it when he has a strong neutral game. So there's a bit of a thing there. Pharah's got a little bit of an identity crisis too. She's a little better than Echo if you're just trying to spam out pressure tanks, etc. She's found a little bit more of her identity when they nerfed Echo's clip size a little bit back, but there's a little bit of an identity crisis there. I think that we've decided to just allow Bastion to be broken, where he destroys things at low levels and is relatively worthless at high levels. Yes, you can play flank Bastion. Yes, I will coach you how to play flank, surprise Bastion, etc., and get value in higher levels. But it's not like you couldn't do some of those similar things with McCree, but have a lot more flexibility in playing regularly as well. Yeah, these are the heroes that probably jump out at me. Again, if I went back to tank, I do think there was a little bit of an issue with the tank line. Like, but these heroes aren't in as bad a shape. Well, this one might be. This one might be in as bad a shape as Moira. But at least their heroes sort of work. They're just mostly eclipsed by heroes that do things better than them. But I guess that's really the same thing for Moira, where Moira is like, I'm trying to be the big, heavy tank healer when, like, okay, but these two do it just as well, but bring better utility. So, yeah, I'd say that's my answer to that question. Okay. Um. Okay. Are you saying that Anabap are really the better support? Kinda. Yeah. Yeah. I want them to nerf the volume of the Echo Sticky Bombs. I could see that. In reality, it would probably end up being more a peel tool rather than the mass ult stomper that certain. uh, she can prevent her utility is she can prevent a C9 or a Sigma 9, so a Flux 9. She can move you across the spawn room faster. Yeah, I mean, her utility is effectively, well, I'm the right hero to pick if Lucio's already taken, and we're trying to stall last point defense. Um, yeah. And it's not like other heroes can't prevent the Sigma 9. Like, D.Va can boost out of it as it's setting and then finish her boosters back in it. You just have to get the timing right, things like that. Diablo 3 release was so terrible, they had to almost totally redo it. Yeah, I was there for that. That was, we were watching hotfixes release while the game was live, where it's like, oh, you're literally changing how the ability works while the game is live with a hotfix. What? What? Or like people built completely reasonable builds based on what the abilities said, and every two days it got nerfed. Like you had the Sorks that just went, let's stack a bunch, or Wizards that just went, this was me, let's stack a stupid amount of health regen since items are randomly rolled for their stats, but not add any extra health to our items. So we have a ton of health regen without adding any extra health, and then we'll use our ability combinations to not be able to take more than a third of our health from any single hit. And, that was basically immortality, but it was super obvious. Like, that was a pretty obvious combo. So that being nerfed like a week in was like, really? You didn't expect people to see this? What was your QA team if you didn't expect people to see this? Because it was super obvious that was there. And same thing with Demon Hunters, where they would stack a bunch of their secondary resource to make themselves invulnerable, pop their cooldown to get a bunch of their secondary resource back, and then just be like, I'm going to be invincible for 16, 18, 22 seconds based on how much, because of random stat rolls on items, I could stack for this secondary resource add on the items. And that also got nerfed like a week or two in. And it's just like, these were things that should have been super obvious to QA out, and it was really disappointing that those were there. That those apparently weren't intended as ways to play the game, because again, a really basic QA should have gotten that. Okay, but that's enough Diablo 3. We're just complaining about devs not being responsive or being sort of silly at this point. Just tell us what you don't like and we'll fix it, which is wrong. No, it's the users that are always wrong. Yeah, funny Game Buster. Bastion probably. Yeah, I did end up picking Bastion. When it comes to mental resources, I'm very good at keeping cooldowns. When it comes to mental resources, I'm very good at keeping my cooldowns. I don't necessarily know what that means. Bastion and Symmetra need help, I think. Mercy could use a rework too. No, I disagree. So you're saying Bastion and Symmetra need help. So if we go over to Bastion and Symmetra, I think we've talked about Bastion and I'm in agreement there. I don't necessarily know that I agree with Symmetra. Symmetra has a place. Symmetra's place is, hey, we are going to turtle up on a point. You don't see a ton of turtling in Overwatch anymore, but she is one of the heroes that actually enables it, and you see it in Koth maps where she'll go, okay, we're in what? Village on Nepal, or we're in Night Market on Lijiang, and she's doing the turtle play with her TPs. I don't think she's struggling with an identity. I think she works. She's not a you can play her in any situation hero, but I think the DPS cast is large enough that you don't need heroes, that you don't need all of them to be playable in any situation. And then for what was I saying? And then for Mercy, I completely disagree. Mercy's fine. Mercy does not need help right now. Mercy does not struggle with her identity either. She is perfectly valid as a poke hero. Like, she is perfectly valid as a support to enable poke compositions. You might say, hey, Zen is great in poke compositions, Bap is great in poke compositions, and she's great in poke compositions, and you could argue that, oh, these two are better, but I don't think that's real. I think if your poke compositions are stacking together, these two become better, but if your poke composition is using more off-angling, you start looking at, no, I would like to be able to enable my Ashe. I would like to be able to enable my Echo. So I disagree on that one. I actually think Sim isn't far off from being okay. Yeah, I'm more in that line, Semitic. As a software dev, the users rarely know what they really need. Their suggestions are very commonly the wrong solutions to the problem. I understand what you're saying, Game Buster, and they're going to be wrong a lot. That's fine. Like, it is fine that they're wrong a lot. Most people are wrong a lot. I don't necessarily agree though that you want people to not be coming up with the ideas themselves. Like, there does seem to be some pride there where it's like, no, we're not going to do these things unless we came up with them. There seems to be a little bit of that based on what I've seen over the years with Overwatch. Not completely, but there seems to be a little bit of that when the community really has come up with the right solution, or especially with some of the, we do a buff, it's clear that that buff didn't make any sense and was too strong in actual practice, so we need to do the reversion. No, we refuse to do the reversion, we'll nerf something else. And it's like, get over yourselves. Like, seriously, get over yourselves. Um, but I do understand what you're saying, GameBuster, of users are wrong frequently. Users are wrong frequently, and users also don't know what percentage of the user base their view represents. Junkrat is probably the best example of what a niche hero should look like. Fair enough. Fair doesn't even have the great shield break with her fire rate. Agreed. Tableau channel now, you approve. There you go. Oh, you were trying to say you don't think a lot. Okay, that makes more sense on the stuff. My problem with Mercy is she doesn't really work as a main healer very often, which means you have to play her with a main healer. That leaves you with no defensive ult, though. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The mistake is running Mercy. Mercy and Zen are a great combination. They are one of the best support combinations in the game. You probably don't want to, if you have a Mercy Zen support line, run a Reinhardt Zarya tank line. But that's fine. That's totally fine. Even if you don't want to, like, it's okay that this particular tank line doesn't work well with this particular support line over here. Like, that's a totally fine situation. Every combination does not need to equally work together. But this combination, our Mercy Zen combination, is going to work perfectly fine if we are running a, let's say, if we're running an Orisa plus Sigma, that's going to work fine. If we are running a Winston plus D.Va, it's going to work fine. If we are running a Ball plus Winston, it's going to work fine. If we are running a... What else do I want to run here? If we are running a Ball plus Sigma line, it can work just fine. Like, I just did 4 and I could do more. Basically, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to avoid Reinhardt. If we're avoiding Reinhardt, or if we're avoiding doing stupid stuff where we try to be like, oh, our Zarya and D.Va are both playing like they're Reinhardts in the front line together, we're fine with the Mercy Zen combination. The Mercy Zen combination is just about playing faster. It's about we bring an extreme amount of offensive potential between damage boost and Discord Orb, and we bring a lot of poke with Discord Orb plus Zen shots plus damage boost, and we have a res to bring someone back into it. So we get to be really aggressive. We try to win fights quickly, but quickly through poke with very aggressive, work from our Ashe, work from our Echo, work from our Pharah, work from our Junkrat, maybe work from a, I suppose I'll go over to the damage heroes here. Work from heroes like Doomfist, McCree, Pharah, Soldier, Hanzo, Ashe, Bastion, Tracer, Widow. Like, these are all heroes that work. Echo. These are all heroes that work great with these two. Genji even works pretty darn well with this. Junkrat works pretty darn well with this. Like, all these heroes work great with that support combination. Okay. New patch? Yep, new patch. Well, this is experimental, so we've still got a little bit before it goes live. I think Pharah's value comes from the support. Nano Barrage is a ultimate you can just run a comp around, and anything to help the Pharah get Barrage is good. Nano Barrage is an ultimate you can just run a comp around. I disagree. Nano Barrage doesn't do enough for you. Barrage if Nano Barrage, like, what are you getting out of the Nano? The higher damage, you don't need the higher damage on the Barrage, because what happens with the Barrage is effectively what Barrage struggles with damage-wise is Barrage lets out a bajillion little missiles right next to each other. Like, that's what it does. And the time it takes Barrage to eliminate people is the missiles getting from Pharah, your spawn point, to the enemy. So this time is what it costs. That's fine. So, like, the time it takes Pharah to eliminate enemies isn't, oh, I have to hit them with a lot of missiles. It's, I need this initial time gap for it to start to get from Pharah to the enemy. Once the first missile gets to them, they're going to go down almost immediately because the following missiles are right behind it. And damage boost, either from Nano or Mercy, doesn't do you a ton of good because it doesn't make this time from the 0 to first missile getting to them any faster. Instead, it just makes once the first missile gets to them, that first missile does damage quickly, but they died like here. This is when the person was eliminated in terms of first missile, second missile, third missile, fourth missile. Like, this is when they got eliminated, and damage boost means instead they get eliminated here. But on a time scale, it's like, okay, it takes this long to eliminate someone if I don't damage boost them, and it takes this long to eliminate them if I do damage boost them. Or if I use Nano, it takes, instead of damage boost, it takes like, well, let me actually make these more realistic. It's like this: regular, Mercy boost, Barrage. From 0, if 0 is here and elimination is down here, that's not enough of a difference. So the other thing that Nano gives you is damage reduction on the Pharah, but you know what's better to protect your Pharah than the damage reduction from Nano Boost? Both of these are better for that. Yeah. Okay. Who needs a defensive ult when you have BAP? Basically, though, maybe they're taking that away a little bit. Mercy Zen can be pretty scary. So much damage boosting? Absolutely. Trance is a pretty powerful defensive ult. Trance is a top 5 ult in the game, no question. Knowing Blizzard, I think they don't want to feel like they can be sued for using an idea that's not in-house since they would profit. Nah, they're safe from it. I understand what you're saying, Scott Free, but there's like almost zero legal danger of that. Like, almost zero. Hopefully most of those don't go live. Really? You think these patches, or you think this patch is that bad? I don't think this patch is that bad. I don't think it's amazing, but I don't think this patch is that bad. The damage boost is meh for damage. The damage reduction is more meaningful. I covered that too, but yes. The enemy is under the cover of the enemy is under the cover of Temporal's camera. Okay. Oh, was it? My bad. Sorry. I don't usually draw there. I forgot. I'll redraw the lines effectively, but it's like, here's regular Barrage, here's Mercy boosted Barrage, and here's Nano Barrage for when they get the elimination. With this is, when Barrage starts, and this is when you get the elimination. You don't get the elimination much faster because of the pepper of bullets take time to get there, and you don't need the problem is there's that time to get there. Once the first missile gets there, the second, third, and fourth that are going to get the elimination are going to get there immediately behind them. It's just that the first one getting there takes so long, and damage boost doesn't speed that up. So if you damage boost it, maybe the fourth missile eliminates them instead of the fifth, or the sixth missile eliminates them instead of the fourth. That's not really a serious time saver. Okay. No, Lucio should be able to speed up barrage rockets. I guess the damage boost could let you burn a shield quicker, maybe. Sure. There's niche spots for it. Do you think Winston needs a buff and what? No, I wouldn't touch Winston right now. I think before Ball got nerfed and Winston got the armor buffs, there was potentially a little bit of an identity crisis for Winston, but Winston is seeing enough play in Double Bubble that I would not buff him right now. I do think there is still a little bit of a, well, how do you want these two heroes to work, Blizzard, between Ball and Winston? Do you want them to both be divers? Do you want Ball to be a constant disruptor to enable poke? That's sort of the two directions that they're leaning, but how do you actually accomplish that while not making Ball, how do you let Ball be a constant disruptor that doesn't just feed by doing so to enable poke comps while not making him durable enough and powerful enough to just be a stronger diver than Winston in some scenarios, since he already has a better poke phase himself with his weapons, etc. So there's a little bit of a thing there, but Winston has good armor right now. Reinhardt just lost some armor. I wouldn't buff Winston right now. I would need to see more. Hey, it's the BAP change I talked about on Discord. Looks like an okay patch to me. That's kind of where I am. I'm not like, oh my god, greatest patch ever. I think some of this is like, okay, we're playing a bit random with some of the changes that we're making, but none of these changes are making me go, oh my goodness, this is awful. I don't see a change here that I think is terrible. I don't see the, 24-hour Bastion meta with the undestroyable Bastion that we only ever got nerfed because Jeff Kaplan happened to play a game that night and went, I was Tracer. No, I was Bastion, and this Tracer really outplayed me, but I still eliminated him, and I felt bad, so I reverted the buff. Yeah, true story. Okay. Uh, uh, given how little it's actually going to do, it's like, why even bother releasing it? I don't know. I don't know. Like, again, these could be impactful. These could be impactful, and this might not matter now, but maybe, no, I don't think this will matter. This could surprise us. Probably not. It won't. These two could be impactful. This will be impactful. A 50 health loss, a 50 armor loss, like armor to nothing, not armor to health, is meaningful. And I don't know what this is going to look like. I think it's a patch. It's a meaningful patch. It's not the super targeted, we're trying to delete this playstyle, but it's them making changes in a way that doesn't make me want to pull my hair out. I think that Moira buff is pretty good, at least around my level of low plat or high plat, low diamond. Yeah, I mean the Moira buff is fine. Like Moira's not going to object to the buff, and Moira's not a strong enough hero that I'm going to object to Moira getting the buff. Fine with me. I just don't think it's going to do it. To make Moira work, you either have to give her utility or you may have to make her output stupid overpowered. And this isn't really utility. This is more leaning in the direction of let's just up her output, which okay, fine. Trading machine 90% of the time. Yeah, but you can enable it well. You can enable it where you just go, okay, we traded Pharah ult for 2 eliminations plus a lot of resource drain out of the opponent, and we lost our Pharah, and it's fine because we got 2 eliminations and a bunch of resources out of you. Winston is good. EUNA is just bad at playing him. I think that's true now. I think I would have objected to that a little bit when Ball was at the peak of his power. Is that really what happened? You can look back and find the story, Nardstorm. But yeah, we had a Omnic meta for 24, maybe 48 hours. It was the fastest reversion we've ever seen. They made it so that Bastion was so... It was at the time when Pulse Bomb, if you stuck someone, did 400 damage, and Bastion had so much natural damage reduction that you could stick him with a Pulse Bomb and it didn't eliminate him. You could stick him with a 400 damage Pulse Bomb and it didn't eliminate him. And, that might feel like, oh, but that's one ability. But think about what that means in terms of the coordination that everyone has to have. Like, he's able to take 400 damage and not go down. Well, what if he's getting any healing? Like, that was silly. That was silly. Is that what happened to your hair when you first started streaming? Oh, pulling my hair out? Funny, funny. I feel like Moira could go back to 80 HPS and her thing could just be stupid high heels. It might. That would be one way to make her relevant. Just make her output so silly high. That would be an option. I'd rather we rework Moira than try to make her the healbot machine. I think they want a healbot machine in their game is the thing, but the healbot machine is really going to struggle if she has the range limitations that she does in most situations. 35% diminishing returns in turret form. It was insane. Console had to spend weeks on the patch. Oh yeah, I forgot. We got the revision real fast on PC, thank goodness. And it was because I believe it was Jeff. It might have been another high ranking developer, but I think it was Jeff happened to go play Bastion that night and they felt bad about the fact that a Tracer was clearly outplaying them and couldn't eliminate them. I think it was Jeff. It could have been, a lead on the balance team or something. But hey. And yeah, poor console. That was when it took longer to green light changes on console. They needed more lead time for that, so they couldn't just revert it. Okay. Okay, I think that's going to do it. This has been plenty. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do like and subscribe, as that definitely helps me out, and I really do appreciate it. Or if you are looking to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below, see what rates look like, see what sort of promos, events we have, all those things there. Thanks, guys. Temporal out.